Good. Hi, everyone. Good evening. We're here today with Odette Ramos for our Ripple Out conversation. Odette Ramos is running for City Council in the 14th District. She used to be a lobbyist, so she's made a change in the focus of her work. I know Odette from Baltimore Women United. Odette is one of the original founders of this organization that started in 2016, right after the election. And the idea was to promote and support gender equity and parity in elected offices.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get that right, Odette?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, welcome this evening, Odette. It's really, really nice to chat with you.
Thanks so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So the first question I want to ask you, Odette, is you're running for office. What prompted you to decide to do that?
Yeah. So again, thanks for this opportunity. So I've been in Baltimore about 30 years, and I've done a lot in terms of advocacy and work, both at the neighborhood level. And I actually, one of the first things I ever did was be involved in a initiative to make sure that in Maryland, abortion stays safe and legal. And that was question 6 in 1992 to make sure. So that was a ballot initiative. And that was really an amazing experience. I was organizing college campuses. And as I was in college at Goucher, I went to Goucher.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Goucher actually brought me to Baltimore.
Very cool.
So that was an amazing experience. And then I was also in student government, but then went on to work for a group called Greater Homewood Community Corporation, which is now Strong City Baltimore. I did a lot of organizing on the ground, and then also became a small business owner. So I was doing some consulting and also chaired the Baltimore Hispanic Chamber. And then with my current job with the, well, I'm not there anymore, the Community Development Network of Maryland, where we were doing a lot of work around affordable housing and dealing with vacant properties. And I worked most recently on making sure that we had the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in Baltimore. And so I've done a lot of that work. And when our councilperson, Mary Pat Clark, decided that she wasn't going to run, I felt like, well, can I make more of a difference as being a council person? It's important to have people advocating, pushing from the outside in, but can I do more, do better as a council person? And so that's what I'm exploring, obviously. And because I do think that there are systems in place that we need to dismantle that have to be done really from the inside. I believe that we need to have people that are in office that we can believe in to really push the envelope and think creatively. Before this conversation, you and I were just talking about the recovery that we have to go through after this crisis is over, and the economic recovery. And it's going to take a lot of us with creative ideas who've had experience in this work to really solve the problem. So I'm excited to explore all of these things. I've been frustrated with some things that happens at city government, like the procurement process and how that's a pay-to-play system and all of that. So part of it is also just like, I think I could really do a good job to, change things for our city as a council person.
Yeah. Well, when I hear you talking, Odette, I hear you talking from your heart and from a real commitment to making change based on grassroots work that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to congratulate you knowing that Mary Pat Clark has endorsed you. I saw that the other day, so that's very exciting.
Yes, thank you.
Well-loved figure.
I'm grateful. Yeah.
In Baltimore. I heard you say that you anticipate having to dismantle structures and systems in Baltimore City when you are elected. And that is going to take certain qualities. Be able to do that. What qualities do you anticipate having to tap into to be able to do that?
Yeah, so the specific systems I'm really interested in dealing with are, we have a segregated city, and making sure that we're ending that segregation by really changing the way we do policy and that we do investment in the areas that have been traditionally disinvested, and several others. Well, I think, first of all, it does take some collaboration. We have other colleagues that we have to work with. And so working with the other 14 members of the 14, because of the council president, members of the council around some of these ideas. And luckily we have, I think, some really great people in the current council. And We have some people that are running that I think are going to be great as well. And then collaborating with advocates and others to really make it work. So my style has definitely been a collaborative approach to try to get things moving and things working in making things happen. I mean, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund was all about a collaborative effort. You can't get things done without that. So that's really important. Also, I think it's important that we still don't have a majority of women on the city council, okay? And given where the dynamics are, that's probably also going to be the case after this new council is elected. And I think it's important that we have more women in office, because I think we, as I'm a mom, so I also see things differently, as a mom. I think the world of my male counterparts, but I also want to bring the experience that women have. We've traditionally been overlooked. We've traditionally been cast aside. We've traditionally, had to climb up a lot of ladders, and we've seen when Elizabeth Warren had to drop out of the, presidential race, someone who is ultimately qualified. It would be an amazing president. And because of misogyny and other issues in our country, that's crazy. So I'm glad to be in Baltimore, because I think, we've had women in leadership. We've been really excited to have that. So we need to, increase that and be, role models to bring other women up. But I do think that the unique experience that women have can help to really be collaborative, but also to make sure that we're addressing some of these systems. And then, not be afraid to try new things. I think that there's sometimes where people are like, well, we did that before, it doesn't work, or we don't know. No, let's try new things, especially now. We have to be brave about it and just step out there and say, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? Or, hey, this could work this other way. You've got to try new things, especially now with the COVID crisis and what we're going to be going through economically, education disparities, economic disparities, health disparities that we have to deal with, that we had to deal with before, and we have to deal with them, because this has really exacerbated those. We've got to be brave. We've got to come up with some new things. We've just got to step out there and say, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think about it? Or, and work together to make some of this happen. It's something that just got to think creatively.
Yeah. What possibilities do you see bringing bravery to this process, create?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I think of things in a policy lens, and I think some things some ideas that I think will work to dismantle some of the segregation and the stuff that I've been talking about before is likely not to be very popular, but it's going to work. And so I just, given how it works in other places, I think we could do it. So for instance, I talk about, how our tax system works in the city, where we give out tax breaks to people who want to do investment and, that kind of thing in Baltimore. And it seems very haphazard. It's always going into one direction and not the other. And I feel like we need to change our tax policy so that we're incentivizing investment in areas that have traditionally not been invested. And that would, take some, the way that we need to do it is to create what's called a development excise fee. And every jurisdiction in Maryland has it. We don't, but it can be applied geographically. So if you want to, develop downtown Inner Harbor, you're going to pay this crazy fee. But if you want to invest in East and West Baltimore and work with the community to increase community capacity, to hire locally, to, do all that, you won't have to pay it. Mm-hmm. And so that's a whole opposite way of thinking about how we're doing this, but it's working in other places. An excise fee or an impact fee, it's talked about in both ways, is used to manage growth. That's how it's used. Baltimore County just put it in to manage growth so that they can have additional money also for their schools. You know, each Montgomery County has it to be able to manage growth. So, okay, other people are doing it. Let's see how we can do this. Let's at least try something new, because now is really the right time. So, and it's going to be totally unpopular. It's going to be really hard to get folks involved in this, but I have to be brave.
Yeah.
I have to work with my colleagues to talk about how this would work. Have to work with all of those affected and see, you know, how that we can make this happen. Maybe we do a pilot in a certain place. I don't know, but it's just an example of, you know, things that we just got to think. And, you know, we have council people who've, you know, went to bat for us when we did the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and doing the funding source for it. So I know that they are committed to helping out and doing the right thing in the city. So it's just a matter of thinking that through. So that's an example anyway of what I'm thinking about.
Being brave. What beliefs about yourself do you think you're going to have to let go of to do the work you want to do?
Oh gosh. You know, there's so when you're making policy, like I have done in Annapolis and other places, you just sometimes have to open up yourself and say, okay, if, you know, I have this one idea, I really want to get us done this way, but the only way to get it passed is probably to add something else or take away something else or work with somebody else. And so there's always that process of, if I'm ready to give on that, if I'm going to give on that, I can't give on this, I can't give on that. And so sometimes you just, there's that part of the thinking around what you can give up in terms of your values and things like that in order to get this one thing passed. Is it actually worth it? So that's something that I've dealt with before. I would imagine I would have to do again as well. I think that there are, you know, I've never been in elected office before, other than I'm on the state central committee. And so there will be some, you know, as much as I like to manage my time, this may not be all of that. So there may need to be ways that we compromise just the time of how do I, you know, make sure there's time for myself, my family, you know, and the work that needs to be done. Because I can really, I love working. I can really engross myself in the work, and but I definitely need to make sure that there's the balance. Now, a lot of women feel that much more than men do, right? In some ways, and so you know, knowing that, but knowing that I have to, you know, still have that there. So I think that, you know, the other unique thing I have to say about this is that if I'm elected, I will be the first Hispanic Latina ever elected in Baltimore.
In Baltimore? The very first?
The very first.
Wow.
The very first.
Wow.
Anybody of Hispanic Latino descent, anybody.
Wow, that's
which
so
is saying something, okay? It's saying something about a couple of things. One is it's saying where our city is headed, and that's a good thing, because the conversation has traditionally been around Black-white, and now we have another aspect to think about because the Latino population is growing here.
It really is.
The other piece is, for me, I don't live in an area where there's majority Latinos, okay? So I have not had to, other than when I was the chair of the Baltimore Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, work directly with the Latino community. So I have to get back into that and work with whoever the council person is going to be there, you know, with the Latino population, along with my district. But I also feel like that gives me an opportunity and some street cred, frankly, to bring people together that traditionally wouldn't be talking to each other. And that, you know, has value that, you know, so I take that responsibility very seriously, that I might have this opportunity to bring folks together that just haven't been, because I can talk to so many different people and relate to so many different folks, because being Latina means that you're really a mishmash of a lot of things, really. Puerto Rican especially, you know, we've got Spanish, we've got our Spaniards, we've got the slave trade came through Puerto Rico, and we've got you know, the natives that were there as well. So it's a role that I'm going to have to adapt to, because I've never had to be there before. I traditionally was raised Puerto Rican, but my schooling and everything else was in predominantly white schools and everything else. So it is something that I'm going to adapt. I have to, my Spanish is terrible, so I have to learn, and I will do that over the summer. So and so that's just a whole new aspect that I'm going to have to get used to, and I'm excited about. I'm totally excited about it, and I take that responsibility very seriously. Also, I know there's so many young Latinas who are interested in running and interested in being more involved in Baltimore and interested in all of that. And there are groups that many of them have been involved in, like CASA and the business groups and all of that. Wow, wouldn't that be amazing if more Latinas end up running because I'm running? Like,
Yeah.
whoa, that would be awesome. And that would be the test of, you know, how I do this work too, you know. So so it's really it's an interesting place that I find myself, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I'm hearing you talk about that value that I heard early on about collaboration. I mean, this is collaboration in a way that perhaps you didn't expect. But it's
Right.
a strength of yours that you've drawn on before, and you can bring it to this new aspect of your work. So at this point, what don't you want to let go of?
Well, I definitely don't want to have to give up any of my values. I mean, I don't want to do that. If I have to take a vote,
Mm,
you know, just to satisfy somebody else, that would just kill me. So there are some sacrifices that sometimes you have to make as a lawmaker, to do that. So, but I certainly want to make sure that I'm taking votes and acting for the city and for my for the residents of the district, you know, with the same value of, you know, working hard, collaboration, getting the work done, and being true to the values of representing those who, you know, don't always have a voice, and being brave and having different ideas that might actually work. Never being scared of trying to try something else, because we just can't move forward as a city if we keep doing the same stuff. So, you know, so those are some of the things that I'm, you know, conscious of, making sure that I'm, you know, and I'm lucky that I have a support system. I'm sure my colleagues at Baltimore Women United certainly know, if I'm, you know, moving one way or the other. They'll let me know.
we'll prod you, Odette.
Right, exactly. But I do want to, you know, I continue to, you know, one of the things that I've noticed also is that and my parents have said this too, where if I find something that needs to be fixed, I really try hard to get it done. And so I want to continue that. My parents talk about when they first realized I was ready for politics. I was in seventh grade. One of my teachers took me to. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and so my dad was in the Air Force. That's how we ended up there. And she we didn't have recycling. This was in the, you know, early 80s. We did not late 70s, early 80s. We didn't have recycling. And so in the city. And so there was a whole group of people thinking about getting recycling in the city. So I testified at City Hall, and then they passed the bill that there would be recycling. And so I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And my parents were like, oh God, here we go. So, and so just started to get involved with like student government and things like that afterwards. But anyway, so I think that kind of thing has been in my blood for a while, and I'm, you know, we'll see if this phase, if the voters allow me the opportunity to serve, you know, to see if I can, you know, make much more of a difference for for everybody in Baltimore in particular, working hard to bring the 14th district together too.
And so our final question of the evening, Odette, is moving forward, what do you want to savor?
Savor. So I am one of those people that, once something is done, it's done and I'm gone. And I don't actually savor the moment of how awesome it might have been. And women typically do that, right? It's like, okay, we're done with this. We're going to keep going, right? And so savoring those really important moments, like, wow, we just passed this amazing piece of legislation, or we just created the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, or we just, it is something that I have to still say and reflect and say, wow, this was really good, and then move forward. So I don't always savor the victories. And because I'm ready to go on to the next thing. It's like, okay, we're done. Let's go to the next thing. But I think it's important to savor victories, because then you gain, perspective. You learn, because you then gives a chance to look back and see what needs to be, what could have been done better, but also, learn what, how great whatever it was and who the partners were and all this kind of stuff. And so savoring those moments of victory is something that I've been working on, so that, can again learn from and just keep going. But it's also good to just like, okay, that was great. That was really awesome. And now we've got to do the next thing, so, so I want to savor that. I also, I have to say, the conversations that I've had with some people while I was door knocking, I can't door knock anymore. It's terrible. But
I love doing that. You were great at it too.
It was so much fun. I really,
right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to people at their door, meeting people where they are, and had some really amazing conversations with people. I mean, I'm having great conversations on the phone because I'm calling people, but some of the, whether it was a good idea or just being there for somebody who's just gone through a bad day and hearing and listening to them. I don't want to be so busy that I can't savor those kinds of conversations, because I learn from them so much.
Yeah.
And, so I'm going to have to make sure that I can still spend that kind of time to have those kinds of conversations, and even savoring, we, Baltimore Women United, our leadership, we have a call every week. And even in this time where it's hard to do anything, we really keep that call, because sometimes we just need to have that, even if we're political gossiping and talking about, it's like this time that we've designated that we can be with our women friends and colleagues who understand what we're going through. And so I don't want to lose that, and I need to continue to savor those kinds of, because it's only an hour, done. And I've learned so much from being involved with Baltimore Women United, just about how women can come together. We've learned a lot about, intersectionality and how important it is to be intentional. And we hold each other accountable to that. And so it's, so hopefully, I know I'm sure being a council person, again, if the voters allow me to serve, might take me away from that, but it is something that I think is going to be important for me to kind of stay grounded too.
Well, Deb, this has been wonderful to chat. I've learned so much, and I really appreciate your taking the time to share, who you are with me and with all of the people who turn in to watch the Ripple Out Conversations.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. It's one thing to talk policy all the time, but then it's another thing to get a little deeper. And so I appreciate the challenge to do that, and the opportunity. So thank you.
And I look forward to savoring your win.
Yeah, well,
savor together.
If the voters allow me to serve, I'm going to be so happy about it. Yeah. So thank you so much. And thanks for all your work too. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome, Odette. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too. Take care.